let's talk about personality assessments. I want to spend a decent amount of time on this because I think it's a fascinating topic. I think you're as knowledgeable about it as anybody I know. To put a little context around this for everyone that's listening, there are a variety of different personality assessments out there. I don't like to refer to them as tests. I'm very particular about that choice of languaging. It's not a test. There's no pass or fail. It's an assessment. This is who someone naturally is. You've got Myers-Briggs and Colby and the Enneagram and a whole bunch of others that I don't even know the names of. But the one that I've always been, that I've known about for 25 to 30 years and have used like exhaustively in that period of time is DISC. And I know that that's your wheelhouse as well. So share with everyone, and if you have context around DISC, don't tune out, because what you're going to learn here from Tom is some nuances to DISC that maybe you've never heard before that are incredibly important, both in team building and in sales. So I'd like you to take us through the DISC model, Tom, and share a little bit about it and just run with it. I mean, integrate into this conversation anything you want as it relates to sales, as it relates to your culture, et cetera.
Sure, sure. So DISC to me it's a personality profile, but if you go underneath the layers of it, it's how and why people make decisions. Basically, at the end of the day, it's how and why they make decisions. And if I told you that if I can know how you're going to make a decision, you're going to have a clear advantage over somebody else, right? And I could tailor my sales approach or my conversations to make it feel like I make decisions the same way you do. That is at the basic realm of what you should understand from a DISC profile. If somebody makes decisions differently, it's good to have team members that see the world differently, that make decisions differently, because then you get a 360 approach to understanding why and how they do that. And sometimes you're blind to some of those things. So there's 4 assessments or 4 personality profiles, and everybody kind of has usually 1 high, 1 low, and then it could be a variety anywhere else. You could have 3 high, 1 low, but it's important to know how you make decisions, and then also your blind spot, your low on there. So high Ds, usually 10% of the country, they're extremely dominant. They're quick to make a decision. They don't care about people's feelings. They're really a person who is a natural born leader in a lot of different things. They're going to make decisions very quickly, sometimes within 2 to 3 seconds. They're going to be dominant in a conversation. They're going to be an introvert. They're going to do a lot of different aspects to really make sure that they win. And that's an important key to them. High Eyes, they're your people, friendly people. They're outgoing. They smile. They're not scared to wear or neon, excuse me, and all kinds of different things to
That was a
really.
nice slip there.
Yeah.
I'm sure all of our friends at Neo loved that.
It wasn't on purpose. I was thinking directly of Casey wearing his neon stuff when I was saying that.
Yeah.
But
No, that's like a really important thing that I learned from you. It's like, these are the subtle clues that are like really fascinating. So high eyes often wear bright colors. They want to stand out. And it's like, ever since you taught me that, I've noticed it a lot.
Yeah, and it's easy. You can literally walk up to a stranger that's wearing something that's standing out on a lot of different things, and they will smile. They'll become your friend within 30 seconds right away. They're looking for fun. They're looking for friendship a lot of times, and they're okay with that. It's like an immediate thing where a high D will wear a lot of black and red, like very power colors on everything else. And high eyes talk with their hands. They're easy to get along with. They're really bad at follow up, and they procrastinate, because think about it as they're juggling 6 or 7 dishes in the air. And they can never complete all of them because they're trying to always do everything, and they take on too much a lot of times, but they're always going to come out on top. Where high S's, they're a lot of times they're people that want to be in a follower position. They want to be the person who gets told what to do. They want to be neutral on a lot of different aspects. They're steady eddies is the way I like to think about them. And they are highly emotional, but don't show a lot of emotion. And they, in my opinion, are the toughest people to sell to, because the one thing that they do that really a lot of people think is a good selling tool is they nod and go along with everything you're saying. And they tell you yes. They hate saying no. But at the end of the day, it eats them. They can't say the word no. It really bothers them on a lot of different things. And loyalty is really important. You need to slow down your communication with them. You need to break things down in parts. And I think that's just a really important aspect of that, because they're going to be loyal. They're going to be the people that stay in a job 20, 30 years. They're not going to make very rash decisions. And here's how they make decisions that's, I think, extremely important, is they make decisions based on others. Their circle of trust is what I like to call it. So if somebody in their circle of trust doesn't like what one of the things that somebody said to them, they are not going to like it. So you really got to bring that back. They have a lot of buyer's remorse, and you got to become into that circle of trust if you're selling to a high S. And then the last is a high C. Those are people that are a lot more analytical. They're very much an introvert. They're somebody who's going to wear clothing that's going to almost look like a uniform. Even though it might be jeans and a t-shirt, it's the same kind of t-shirt. It might be different colors. Once they figure it out, they don't want to make that decision. It just becomes an easy process to them. And they always think about what's the worst thing that can go wrong. That's a very hard thing sometimes, because they're automatically pessimistic. They have to have a process in place. So when you're thinking about selling to them, if they're thinking about what's the worst thing that can go wrong, you've got to meet them at that level of understanding they need all the facts to make those decisions, all the important details, because they want to do their homework. They're a lot more prepared than a lot of people. And sometimes they're brash, but when they're brash, it's usually based on facts, not emotions, on different things. One of the unique things that I like to teach realtors on DISC is when a high C goes to buy a home, a buying sign that they do, and this is probably the most unique thing that a high C does, they'll pull out their phone and they'll GPS everywhere they have to drive. Gym, work, school, whatever it is, whatever there's part of their day or week, they're GPSing that. Because they're thinking about what's the worst that could go wrong, what's the traffic like, what's certain things that go on. Once you start understanding that it's literally how they make decisions and why they make decisions, this becomes a lot easier. And then you tailor your selling techniques to make them feel like you're making the same kind of decision.
Let me do a quick summary.
Sure.
And I'm going to embellish a little bit of my own into the equation, to add on top of some of the things that you shared. And then what I'd love to do is have you give a specific, we'll take each of the personalities and have you give a very specific strategy as to how to sell to that person.
Sure.
So, so a high D, they're direct, they're dominant, they're very type A, natural born leaders, want to be in control of the conversation, make quick decisions. They want to be the chief. Like they move fast. They are moving on to the next thing all the time. I'm a super high D, and especially when I'm dealing with a high S. What I notice is, excuse me, when I'm dealing with a high I, whenever I'm with a high I, it makes my D come out more, because they're like wanting to embellish on everything. And I'm just like, let's get to the fucking point here, man. I got shit to do. Let's go. Okay. So that a D is going to be somebody who wants to take control. And by the way, I find that a lot of your borrowers that you're dealing with are a high D, if there is a high D in the marital relationship, because they would be the one who would naturally take charge of making the decisions on the financing. High I, shake hands, kiss babies, center of attention. They also move fast, relationship people. can be long-winded at times, which is why they run late, which is why they're not as attention to detail oriented because they're invested very much in the value of connection and relationship. High S moves slow, doesn't want to be the lead, wants to be the Indian, not the chief. Um, is I think you bring up a phenomenal point that I never understood before, which is they're emotional, but they don't show it. That's like a super important thing. I've never had anybody other than a high S in my uh, partnerships in life. So that's a good thing for me to learn is that, yeah, like they didn't tell me they were pissed off, but they were pissed off. Um, and then a high C,
That's called the teapot effect.
what's that?
That's called the teapot effect. What happens with the high S? They hold it all in and then they blow up when
Uh,
they can't take it anymore.
yes, I have a former wife who did that. And then she's still blowing up and it's been 19 years. And a high C, thorough, methodical, detail-oriented, coming from fear. And oh, by the way, like just to kind of draw some like quick analogies and in closing, and then kick it over to you for like the approach with each one of them. A high D is going to be oftentimes like if your borrower is like a CEO or in a power position in a company, they're typically going to be a high D. Whereas like a high C, it's almost a dead giveaway if somebody's a CPA or a scientist. Or I used to work with people at Amgen, which is a biotech firm. Those are all high Cs. I mean, people that have a lot of detail, typically a doctor is going to be a high C, at least I hope so. You wouldn't want them operating on you when they're a high I and they're chatting with the nurses and not paying attention to the fact they have you cut open. So there are clues, is my point, in these different positions and roles that people play. And you can pick up on them by how fast they talk, how slow they talk, how much detail they show versus how much dominance that they show, etc. So why don't you go ahead now and take over? Let's go through each of the four letters and give us a tip on how to sell to them.
Sure. What I'd like to do is actually give you a tip on how to sell and something you should not do to each one of them as well.
That might even be more important.
Yeah, just because I think you could turn people off a lot easier than selling the right way on there. So high D, one of the things that's really important is they're going to be decisive quickly. So you want to hit them with something quick and make it feel like they win. So it'd be like a rate example. Hey, I haven't seen anybody get this great of a rate. You're basically robbing us. You're stealing this rate. Like that would make a high D feel really good on there. Something that you would do if you're really good at it is do a takeaway close with a D. I don't want to show you this house today, Tim, because you told me you really wanted a deal. But there's like 10 offers on this home and you're not going to get a deal over here. Let's go to a different home. And it would immediately trigger them to win, right? Like that would be becoming an expert at this because the high D would want to go out and win that home. One of the things that would be a huge turnoff for them is not being a decision maker and not being quick with that. I don't know if I could do that. Let me go talk to my manager. I'll get back to you in 24 hours, or that sounds like a lot, or something of that nature. That immediately would turn them off in the fact that they're not dealing with somebody that could be that decision maker that quickly and get those answers that quick. So they might want to go to somebody else that could be that decision maker. They feel like something's going on. High I. The number one thing that they want is to have fun and be friends. So if you can talk to them about anything that is not work related, like their personal life, family, friends, what they like to do for hobbies, those are huge things for a high I. If they start talking about like going boating last weekend, like if you're meeting with a realtor and they start talking about all the things that's going on, or if they're late, don't make them feel bad about being late. Like those are things that they're heavily invested in the people. So think about that. If their number one buying signal is let's go do something together. Let's go do whatever it is. Like that immediately is telling you they like you. The worst thing you can do with a high I is give them too much detail. If you spend all your time in facts and you're not personal with them, it's a huge turnoff. There's no chemistry. There's no vibe with that. With that. High S's. High S's are interesting because you have to break things down and go really slow with them. The number one thing that you could do to turn off a high S is not do what you said you're going to do. You don't show up to an appointment. If you don't call them when you said you were going to, if you send them a paperwork that was inaccurate of what you said, they immediately have a trigger in their brain that gives them almost a conspiracy theory that you're out to get them, that there's something wrong, that you don't like them. And that's a really hard thing, but it's a really important aspect of doing the right things with high S's. So when you're dealing with a high S, you want to really make sure that you're building as much trust as possible. Get in that circle of trust is what I like to call it. So make sure they feel heard, that they're a part of that, and they want to do things in a one-on-one setting, never in a group setting. They want to give you your feedback in that one-on-one. They don't like attention as well. So a group attention, they want to, if you do that in front of people, this is what's going to happen every time. They're going to turn around, and whoever gave them that attention, they're going to say something great about that person and try to put that attention back on that person. It's a unique thing that happens with IS. High C, you have to give them all the facts. Like, as a salesperson, a lot of times we feel like the biggest blow off is like, send me some information on that. High C is telling you, yeah, I'm interested in that. I like to think about a high C in an underwriting aspect, right? I think here is the one way that you could sell an underwriter better than anybody else is you want to do your homework. If they don't agree with you, you want to make sure you show them that you did the homework, looked up the guideline, did something. Hey, here's what I see from this. I know you see something different. Let's set up a time in 3 hours or next day. You don't want to attack them on there. Like, you want to make sure that they have enough time to do their own homework and then have a conversation. Because ideally, if you're not a high C, you want to have a conversation to really get your point across, and you don't want to make it emotional. You send an email to them like, this client has been looking for a home for the last year. They're down their last $3,000. They've been whatever. It's all emotion on there. The high C is totally turned off. Well, that doesn't help me. That doesn't help the guideline. So don't back them into the corner, and make sure that you're showing them that you're meeting them halfway by doing some homework, giving them some facts on different things.